Hey y'all, how we doing out there?
Howdy.
Gotta pull up that right one, but you know what it is, it's 10 Paces! Welcome out on another Thursday night on 314 Pi Day, baby! Or as we here in eastern Missouri call it, St. Louis Day, baby! 314!
Reverse Homestuck Day is what it's called in the clown community.
Ah, because clowns are silly and they do things backwards for comedic effect.
No, there's just a whole lot of clowns in Homestuck.
Oh yeah, there's a good handful.
Yeah, it's a clown-rich environment.
It sure is. If only environments were... If only other media represented our, kind of clown distribution as much.
Yeah, I think it's fine for not every environment to be a clown-rich environment. I'm just glad there are some.
Yeah, but you want it to be proportional to real life.
I don't think it needs to be. It depends on whether the clown, wants to be represented in this story, on a sort of a metaphysical level.
You see, the clown through all of it, he's wanted all his life to be in a romance, but he's inherently a very tragic figure.
Oh yeah, like that Pagliacci fella.
No, not Pagliacci. I don't think.
I don't know, I'm waiting for the movie to come out, so I haven't seen it yet.
Pagliacci is the sad clown.
Yeah.
So you got that right. But I don't think we were talking about that particular opera.
Well, you mentioned the clown as a tragic figure.
Oh, for sure. But no, the tragic clown's a less tragic figure than the tragic clown because the tragedy of its existence is acknowledged.
Ah, so it's the quiet ones you want to worry about.
The happy clown is the one that is tragic. The tragic clown is the one that is happy.
Next time you see a clown out there, add a little tear.
Fix them for us, please.
Make sure they're all right. Reach out. So as mentioned before,
go ahead, sorry.
It's Pi Day. So I figured what this day needs is a champion.
Okay.
Someone really fighting for the pie. Someone just championing this whole endeavor.
Give me word for word, please, what pi is. Not the numbers. Like, any circle is a circle that is circled with a circle, is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Less so now, actually.
Okay, look, I'm math illiterate. We need to get that out of the way now. I don't mean that I have a disease or something. I'm just not good at it, and I never will be.
I don't think illiteracy is a disease.
Well, it's an alignment, a malady, certainly.
Yeah.
You're struck with it. Well, I guess you're not struck with it.
You've been struck by dyslexia.
Can you imagine, though, playing Oregon Trail, and it's like, Mom got dyscalculia. Mom bought 200 pairs of pants.
You're doing math and all of a sudden the numbers start shifting around you in front of your face. No, I need to be quarantined.
They love to do that in representations, right, of learning disabilities, where it's like, oh, it's like the numbers are dancing or are fuzzy to me, and it's like I know exactly what it is with having I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, right? It's that it's not that the numbers are dancing, it's that they aren't there. They enter your brain and leave it immediately as though they have some sort of horror movie magic about them.
Yeah, the minute you look away,
receiving.
You don't have the object permanence when it comes to numbers.
Exactly. Numbers are too not too abstract exactly, because I love things that are abstract in a literary sense. But numbers are, I don't know, like
They're in that uncanny valley between the abstract and
the
abstract.
literal, yeah, or even like, I don't know about a valley as much as like they're just both those things at once on top of each other, like how the 3D effect was created with the blue and red glass. It's like it's abstract and extremely strictly literal as well at the same time.
It's abstract and logical. Like there are far more rules to it than there are with like literature.
To give you an idea of how much I dislike math, Lewis Carroll, I quite like his books. I've actually read Sylvie and Bruno, which is a series he wrote for children because he wrote Alice in Wonderland and it sold so well. And he did, now several of these were anti-Semitic. I'm not going to get into that, I just want to fully acknowledge it. But he did logic puzzles. And the reason that he did like logic puzzles is because he used to be like a math professor or whatever, and he said that he wanted to try to find a way to explain that things can be, that there can be a world where things work in a way that makes no sense, you know, like highly sort of not philosophical for math, whatever that's called, theoretical kind of things. And it's like to understand and to be open to the idea that as long as it is internally consistent, there's a possibility it's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You see, I had heard differently in that he had wrote Alice in Wonderland because he was upset with calculus. And he's like, what is this fucking bullshit? This is what the world would be like on calculus? It's a bunch of incoherent nonsense.
No, if you imagine him as the guy who wrote a bunch of logic puzzles, just hundreds of them and got them published because he was already famous. I have a complete works of Lewis Carroll leatherbound that includes his writing on math. None of his like professional stuff, but like periodicals or whatever they're called, opinion pieces, right? That he did on math stuff. I like it. I was real big into him as a kid because I don't know, everything seems absurd to me. So I'm glad that something is doing it on purpose, I guess.
Right.
What are you gonna defend? What are you gonna defend Tim Paice's show's Thirsty Circle the Thursday for? From? Excuse me.
Defend it from?
Yeah. Well, we've got a guardian. We've got a champion.
Oh no, this is just the champion of Pi Day. Someone who comes and, you know, ensures that pi is respected.
Oh, I see. The number pi, right?
Sure.
Okay. I wanted to make sure, because you were saying it's Pi Day, and I was saying, okay, define pi for me. Like any aren't there like math, like Isaac Newton laws, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. Like any equal to its sign is opposite to its cosine.
Yeah, sine and cosine equal 1, I believe. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've taken calculus.
That's great, because that means I was exactly oppositely wrong, which is exactly what I would do every single time in math class, too. Only class I ever studied for and did bad.
Well, like, and the further you get, the more abstract it gets.
I probably get better at that, yeah.
Maybe it was just the calculus teachers I had, but like I was excelled at math in high school and everything because it equated to like real things, exactly. But then it was just we were working with equations that calculated an area of something, and it was just all very amorphous. It didn't necessarily translate one-to-one with a real-life thing, but it was used to kind of interpret real-life things in the form of numbers.
Right, and sometimes it feels, as a complete outsider, and that's the reason we're talking about it really, is because I am truly, the schooling system I went through would not let me take a class that was not algebra from junior high to college.
Oh, wow.
They put me into intro to pre-algebra, algebra 2, and then remedial college algebra. It was 5 years where they insisted I kept doing algebra. I got C's like 4 out of 5 times. I got a D one time because I was like, well, if they're not going to teach me math, I'm not going to fucking learn it.
Right.
Like,
Well,
I got
this
the
is
C.
it. Standardized
What do you
schooling doesn't set up people to succeed.
No. I mean, that's largely what Pink Floyd's The Wall, that first song is about. Is that like, it was companies and people thinking about armed, males or whatever that decided what we should learn at school. They need to be able to, if they have to operate a submarine, and they need to be able to, if they have to, scrape the gum off my shoe while on their hands and knees at the courthouse or whatever, like whatever humiliating thing they do.
I mean, it was like the public school system we're still going off of was designed to train factory workers at best.
Factory workers and soldiers, especially because World War I had just happened when it started taking over in England in particular, which is where the wall comes from. It's one of the things he talks about thematically is how much just how much English life Thatcher and losing his dad in World War II like fucked him.
Right.
And so the wall is just, we are molding you, like it or not, into the shape that we need right now. And now we do it arbitrarily because it's like, I don't know, decades now of like absurdist dark comedies have pointed out, we do shit because we've done shit and because it makes people think we ought to keep doing shit. And I don't mean just tradition, like there'll be somebody whose job is, licking all the stamps at an office or whatever. And it's just, they've been doing that since the 1930s when the company came in, and that's never going to change. But there's also like, my job only exists because if I don't have a job, I can't eat. And if people who don't work don't get to eat, then I therefore would not work, and therefore all of us would die or whatever. It's like all this abstract, and that's my problem with a lot of stuff. I feel like, and I'm sure this is probably how anybody feels politically or whatever, but I feel like I'm saying to somebody, I think, what if we just make sure there's a safe, clean place for everybody to sleep every night? And they'll be like, however
that's
you
not
see in the
feasible.
great metaphysical well, I mean, the feasibility, I guess, is the big thing they like to throw up. But, at the end of the day, it's what you nail down to, I feel like, is always like, well, this great metaphysical point of what is it? Not survival of the fittest, the good thing they like to say. Meritocracy, and like, people who are rich are the good people who deserve happiness, and the people that are poor are the bad people that deserve to suffer. That is,
because they've tied morality to capitalism.
Yes, that's the genius of the United States is just, you've got these Puritans who ran away because they were too fucked, and they're also super into capitalism and the idea that, the best, hardest working men or whatever are the ones that are
the idea that your wealth is directly tied to hard work still.
Yeah, God likes you, and that's why you have money. And even back then it was bullshit, but of course it made more sense because you would plant 18 corns, 16 would grow, and you would say, I have corns, though there were struggles. And like now it is, you walk into an office, or I mean, the best example is you walk into a Walmart to stand there and say hello for 8 hours in a row, because if you ate without doing that, it would offend someone.
Right. You didn't earn it.
Yeah, and that's the arbitrary I'm talking about. I feel like and this is, I know, extremely political, but I feel like all conservative, all regressive politics come down to like metaphysics and morality, and not, hey, does it hurt or help?
Because, I mean, that's the crutch that the conservatism uses is morality. Without any kind of actual ethical stance. It's also a lot harder to change anything than it is to prevent things from changing.
Well, and that's the problem. And I'm sure everyone in the world is sick of hearing it, but we've got regressives and conservatives in our country. We don't have progressives. We're
a very right-of-center country.
You know, and that's the issue. It's not even so much that we go extra far to the right as far as countries go, as it is that there's such a far right acceptable left median, or not median, but perimeter.
Our left folks are still centrist at best. Say for the select few that aren't really allowed in politics because they're left.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like even Bernie Sanders, who's like a guy that he's been around for whatever. My point is just that he's not perfect, right? And
just you take that back. You take that back. Don't take Bernie from me.
I don't even know. Like I'm just trying to get ahead of anybody who might ever say to me like, what Bernie actually did this or whatever. Like the whole MLK beat his wife or whatever. I don't know. People say that kind of stuff. And it's like just, I don't know. It's weird. Like for example, you look at schooling and you look at the patriotic education push that happened a couple years back, and like, what good does that do? What provable good for a human being does that do in any situation ever? To need to be taught well spun, pretty narratives. Like, I don't know that. I think at some point you have to, and it's probably high school's a good time. At some point you have to point out that anybody who's comfortable now is standing on the shoulders of people who did pretty awful things at some point.
Right.
And like, there are these truths that are uncomfortable. Like, I always like my favorite thing that anyone ever told me that sort of was a radicalizing statement for me was just that the rich already practice class consciousness. They're already protecting each other. It's just that they discourage us from protecting ourselves.
Right.
And like the phrase class consciousness is communist theory. I am a radical just by saying that the rich are already doing it and we should do it too. Everyone, there should be a lot more in terms of direct human improvement on a completely ungate-kept scale. Like let's raise the floor is what I feel like.
Exactly.
I don't even need to be on it.
Rising tide raises all boats.
I don't even care if it does, though. For me, like, I would love for all of this fake inflation or whatever the fuck, all this with the soaring corporate prices and the $8 sticks of butter and all that shit. Like, I would love for that to have been because we were building housing for the homeless instead.
Right.
Instead of because we couldn't decide whether or not to ignore, disease happening. Either would have been better for something. At least we wouldn't have had the inflation if they decided to ignore it from the beginning, and all the people wouldn't have died if they decided to keep trying.
But we can't have both.
No half measures. There was a potato that told me that.
A potato?
Yeah. He was a potato. He was like, Walter. He called me Walter a lot.
Was this potato played by what's his
Lawrence
name?
Fishburne? No.
Oh no.
Jamie Kennedy? Definitely not. No.
Pedro Pascal?
Sandra Bullock? Nope. Mike, I think is his name. That's why it's so hard to remember his name.
Was it played by Dean Norris? Oh, you're talking about Mike. See, I was talking about Hank.
He'd be like, here's what you're gonna do.
Oh, yeah, no half measures. That makes it's all clicking now.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite. It was cemented in my mind as a real moral by professional wrestling. Hangman Adam Page, the most conflicted little emo wrestler in the world right now. Way back when he got a title shot against his best friend, and there had been bad feelings for a long time, and he considered cheating. He picked up the belt and then looked at it and couldn't decide whether he wanted to be the guy who cheated, and because of that, he ends up losing the match. Like, it leads directly to the sequence where he ends up getting pinned. And like, if he had been a good guy, that might not have happened, and if he had been a bad guy, it definitely wouldn't have happened. But the fact that he couldn't decide meant that he got got killed. And it's just
Well, it's
like,
almost
and that's his thing all the time. He's really great. His current storyline is that like he had a rivalry with this guy Swerve, and he hates him. And Swerve wants the title shot, and Hangman's also at a title shot, and he's doing everything in his power to make Swerve not get it. There was a tie between them, and Swerve had to beat Hangman to get a title match, and they tied. And he's like,
How do you
didn't beat
tie?
me. You had to beat me. Actually, all televised matches have a time limit.
oh, okay.
They can decide to extend them, but they have a stated time limit. One
Gotcha.
of the earliest controversies, actually, for AEW was Kenny Omega and Pac went to a time limit draw, and the whole crowd booed, and they didn't say, "Ha, just kidding" or anything like that. It was just establishing that sometimes it will happen. Be worried that what they are both as good is what we're going to say to you. Like they couldn't decide it. We'll have to do something else later. And that's the thing. If that's the end of a feud, that's stupid. But it's not. No one's ever ending a feud on a disqualification like that or a tie like that unless somebody IRL gets hurt. You have to worry about that stuff.
Well, I mean, they could animate, look at each other, and be like, "Hey, you're pretty good. You too."
That's half of what they do. You're preaching to the choir in terms of anime looking at each other. That's anybody who wasn't around during the Attitude Era is all about giving these soap opera, anime, comic book, whatever they're into looks at each other,
Yeah.
Another one of the little annoying internet spats was there are these two guys, Will Ospreay and Ricochet, had this extremely high flying match, and they did a spot where they both recognized where the idea was they both recognized they were ending the end of Ricochet's sequence. So Will Ospreay also does Ricochet's signature pose, so they land at the same time, backs to each other in like an anime pose.
Hell yeah.
And people were like, that was dumb. It's nothing like a real fight. And it's like, well, no, that's what wrestling's about.
No, it's wrestling.
There's no point for it to be like a real fight. We have real fights. The reason wrestling isn't just called fighting or whatever. The reason wrestling is
Because ideally, no one gets severely hurt. No one gets career-endingly hurt.
To do things that a person wouldn't survive, even ignoring
Right.
the safety thing. With cooperation, you can do these death-defying stunts that look like you're, the Terminator, and that's really fun. And honestly, I see no problem with two dudes who do flips for a living doing a flip in a disrespectful way at one another in any kind of story. I don't think it wouldn't happen in real life, except for the fact that usually it's not two dudes that want to do flips that are in a ring together. But since it's wrestling, that happens.
Back, I'd say the majority of people can't do a flip.
Not these days.
Back in the day, they were flipping all over town. They would flip to and from the market.
Pioneer times?
Yeah.
That's why they say big fight feel. I said big fight. That's why they say big fight feel, Stabby. Well, the reason they say big fight feel is because they used to say big fight touch, and now Vince McMahon's gone, so they tweaked some things. In the 40s, it was big fight grope. Vince McMahon's dad was just as weird.
And before that, we're not allowed to say.
Yeah. They didn't call it a fight, for one thing. There was a whole different structure and phrase, and it was quite long.
That was a struggle. They shouldn't have fought you so much.
Oh, this has really got that big kerfuffle waffle.
I tell you, it's big tussle energy.
Big tussle ass grab is what Stabby got. So you guys are on the same page.
Hell yeah.
It's very Dark Souls, my man.
Yeah, I've always liked Dark Souls armor. Never been great at it, but would love to, this is practice. I'd like to eventually do more kind of painterly stuff.
In Dark Souls. Oh, you don't mean the game, you meant great at they're designing Eastern European armor.
Yeah.
Yeah, they cleverly pulled a lot more from like Romania, some of the Middle East, and Slavic countries and stuff. Just
Yeah,
so
because
that it
like
felt more foreign to a Western audience and a Japanese audience, while still being a Knights and Dragons story.
right, and Middle East and Turkey had such cool, just like artistic, weaponry and armor that survived.
That's part of why Bandit is, or not Bandit. There's one starting class that you had like a scimitar and like a head wrap and everything. You were straight up, and I believe you started with a red shield with a spider on it and like a war axe. It was like a fighter that it was called Bandit. Point is, like, that was he was dressed for the desert. It was fully that, and you see a lot of heightening of, especially like the countries where people might be Eastern Orthodox, so like these tall, taking the uber Catholicism that existed back then, and lengthening some of the anatomy or exaggerating some of the stoic sorrow. It's really cool, but I'm enormously special interested in it is my jam to a palpable degree. Everyone in the internet can feel it when I start going on.
It's a beautiful game.
Sadie, no. Sadie, get out from behind it. No. Sorry.
No,
I'll
Sadie,
be right back.
get in there. Good job, Sadie. Fuck shit up. Ruin things of my accord. How's everyone doing out there? How's everyone doing out there in chat? As you see, I've got Clown here with me, Clown Royal. And you could join too. Get in that dead man's saloon, pull up a stool. We'll be pouring drinks all night, baby.
Can become my puppet here on 10 Paces Show.
We ain't doing puppets over here. This is real. This is raw.
Monday Night Raw.
Thursday night throwdown.
Got me thuckered out.
Don't be a thucker. Check out 10 Paces.
You played Pizza Tower, Travis?
I have not. I've only heard music and remixes. They've come across my Spotify a lot after it came out.
It's because the music's really good. Well, a free update just came out for the game, adding the noise, which is Peppino's Noid, the guy who destroys Peppino's pizzas.
I was hoping.
He does skateboard tricks rather than running on hand and foot. And he's essentially, they said, a sort of new game plus. The levels are all exactly the same, but he controls so very differently.
Oh, he's a playable character?
Will feel different. Yeah, they added him as the playable character. And even the art, they have like stickers of the noise the noise slaps over Peppino's face in the art of the level.
That's so cool. Yeah, I thought when you were saying that it was a character on a skateboard that would come up and fuck with you in the middle of a run.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool too. But it was a Kickstarter thing. It was a Patreon thing or whatever. They hit the amount of money to get the boss, the noise, as a playable character.
Hell yeah!
So you'll have to fight him at some point. But you fight Peppino as Peppino as well. So.
You fight yourself as yourself? Is that a metaphor for how he's the only one getting in the way of himself in this business venture?
No, Pizza Face is definitely getting in his way. Pizza Face has a giant death laser pointed at his restaurant and is going to set it off soon, I think is all he said. And then Peppino Spaghetti just tears out of there. And then he just spends the rest of the time in a scared, frantic, angry run. Like, all of his animations are like this mix between Luigi and Wario, if you will.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of fury in all of his expressions.
It's because he's got to stop the guy who wants to blow up the restaurant he makes his money from. And all the pizza goons that he's gathered together. The first boss is a red pepper, who is an artist.
Is he not insured?
And is he not insured? Oh, Peppino? I don't think you can get insured against death lasers.
Oh. I mean, not act of God.
No, definitely not. It's like an attack, like a terrorist attack or something.
Oh yeah, definitely can't get terrorist insurance.
Yeah.
So you think that would be a booming industry after, at least here in the States? Just because the fear-mongering is what I meant by that.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant because there's currently about a 10.5% chance you get shot if you go to a mall in the United States.
Ah. Well, those aren't terrorists. Those are lone wolves. We can get away from this.
Hold on. What do you call a bunch of lone wolves that group together? It's a murder.
A bunch of single actors.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was a much darker joke. I was just sort of giving you props for your pitch black comedy. Like,
Oh,
I was
thank
gonna
you.
say, well, Travis, I think that's called life insurance. But you know, I'm glad we went down the rabbit hole. We went down whatever viewers we do have now know.
You know, speaking of life insurance, I was looking at a life insurance policy because,
This can't be true.
yeah, I mean, it's about that time, and I got one through my bank, and just looking at what it covered, and it was like, well, this is life insurance, but it's accidental death policy, so
I know.
the list of things it did not cover was really disheartening. So if I get killed by a cop, no coverage.
Yeah, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
If
Not a political thing, a funny thing. I mean, like, what are they going to do about the pizza tower? Peppino's got to handle it himself. That's all.
I respect Peppino more as a well-developed character now. I'm glad we had this talk.
Yeah, his name's Peppino Spaghetti too. I mean, it's just too good.
Well, yeah, that's a family name. You know, before
Anyway, it's really
Ellis
good,
Island,
and
his
yeah,
family
it's
name
a
was
whole new-
Spaghettelli.
That's pretty good. Tagliatelle. Maliac.
It was farfalle, but nobody knew how to call that.
Can you get me M noodles what look like a bow tie? Hey, you gotta pause.
Yeah, I mean, that was my job for 8 years.
Hey.
Can I
I
get
don't think I have moderation.
penne fettuccine alfredo?
There's a Pila Bliff, so sorry for bothering you. I want to offer promotion, etc. So,
Oh, gotcha. On
I
it.
want to jump in there and grab it.
Nope, that's not. How do I use
bot.
use
Don't
control?
worry. It's not a terrorist.
I don't know how to use these back controls anymore. There it is. I tried out a new Windows setup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Watertight? Keeping the rain out? There was hail today.
It sure was.
Yeah.
Hail of a storm.
Guess who had their window down?
I'm sorry.
It got rained on for like 20 minutes before the hail, and there was like legitimately like a 4-inch pile of hail in the back seat too.
Free ice.
Yeah, we were out of ice. I should have thought of that. Yeah, the bong wouldn't have very well.
Pick the buckets out, children. Free ice day.
Bong is what I call my ice tray. So.
For all intents and purposes.
You're listening to Three Dog. Ah, woo!
3 Dog on the 10 paces. Hitting the 1s and 2s on 314 day.
You sounded a little more Three Dog Night, little less.
I was going for more of a Wolfman Jack.
Hey everybody, Jeremiah was a wolflog. Was a good
That 3 Dog
friend of
Night?
mine. Yeah, it's the only song I know they sing.
For some reason, I always thought that was CCR, but
Oh, no.
a lot of those bands blend together for me. Like, I couldn't tell you what's Doobie Brothers and what's the Allman Brothers.
Doobie Brothers, Allman Brothers is a little trickier. I thought you were going to say like Steve Miller or something.
Oh, he did the Joker, and the Joker.
I'm the Joker, baby.
I'm the Midnight Joker,
He
baby.
did that song that goes, Swingtown or whatever, the
Wasn't that Boston?
Nope. So, come on and
Free Ride?
Oh, maybe it is. Fuck.
Well, that's not Boston. Look it up.
My filthy confession is that I've been playing Pizza Tower this whole time.
Oh, that's fine. I've been drawing. That's
Yeah,
my confession.
So what does all this pastry and sugar have to do with pie?
So you know how pi is it's a ratio based on the area and circumference of a circle? Or it's like what do they call it? A constant that's used in the formula for circular dimensions.
Right. Slow ride. I don't think I meant slow ride, but I do.
Slow ride is Foghat.
Yeah. I don't know. I said yeah, but I don't know what Foghat is. I shouldn't.
Basically slow ride.
Deep Purple, right?
Deep Purple?
Right Said Fred. You say
Morris
Bare Naked
Day
Ladies
in
to
the
me,
Time?
Thank you. Cake. I thought we were getting songs and bands mixed up on purpose as a bit. Well, yes and no. We are also stupid.
Yes, on purpose. Aha.
There was
Plausible
plenty of
deniability.
willful stupidity in there. But also, who knows, right? Who really knows?
This could all be a farce.
My dad used
Could
to
all
really
be
into
some
the
of our...
Eagles.
Really? My dad,
What's up?
for all of his foibles, like, had good taste in music growing up. Or when I was growing up, I should say. So he was, like, really into Yes and Chicago
Yeah,
and Earth, Wind, and Fire.
A little more forward-moving rock.
Yeah. Which is surprising to me, but I guess he also never really bridged kind of certain aspects of those bands with a lot of his big talk.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. But, so I was introduced to some really cool bands at a young age, and I never really appreciated it until I got older. I'm like, oh, this is prog rock.
Yeah, Yeah, that's great because I didn't genuinely find out about Yes until I found out about
Earth, Wind, and Fire is just so fun.
Generally, all funk and disco is a lot of good times. Like, I mean, obviously, it can be overproduced and generic like any music, but I feel like that's unfair to say about genres for the most part. Like, for the most part, punk isn't overproduced and generic, but Green Day's still putting it out. So.
Yeah, and punk's such a widespread genre that, like, it's weird. I would call Green Day pop punk. I mean, I guess they were kind of pre the pop punk movement.
I was gonna say, yeah, they are pop punk, absolutely, but they defined pop punk like
and then Blink 182 kind of set the tone for what it was going to be from then on.
Yep, Blink 182 wrote all that music about like, wouldn't buy me an ice cream cone and I'm fucking mad about it. I wanted to skip the school, but my daddy would not allow it.
Yeah, and all of like Blink songs it was ska structure, but where they traded the horns for angst.
I think I got spoiled by being extremely sheltered by my piece of shit parents. But like, I heard Sum 41 first. I think they just kicked the shit out of everything Blink 182's ever done. Like, I don't like either band that much, but other than like radio edits of What's It, Work Sucks. You know, I really don't listen to music at all. And hearing like Fat Lip, and then hearing after having heard stuff like that, and like even The Offspring to a degree, having them try to sort of
Offspring is more
about
for punk,
what they were.
I'd say
it's when that bridge with ska punk started.
Yeah.
Or not that bridge, that breach, that divergence.
Because I didn't get into punk until like my 20s, unfortunately. Just because I wasn't exposed to punk music. Like, only, kind of derivatives of. But also punk was used as kind of like a catch-all term for such a long time. Kind of the way, how they used alternative as just like a huge catch-all.
Alternative.
Alternative to what?
It's called 90s alternative rock. It's alternative rock is what it used to be called.
But it was alternative to it was supposed to be alternative to like pop rock. But punk was used as kind of that catch-all for such a long time that back in the day, people were calling the Police punk.
Yeah, I mean, that's just because Sting is iconoclastic.
But that's not punk at all.
Well, I don't think they're called the Police because of their love of British bombs, I'm sure. I'm sure there's probably some statement intended by it.
They were going to call themselves the Thin Blue Line, but they didn't think people would get it.
Some people do love the Thin Blue Line. I can't pretend I don't get made to feel unsafe on a regular basis. Driving through this town.
Oh yeah, and it's just that I find it so weird in those small towns how just that perception of threat they have to create for themselves to be like, I'm really standing for something here.
Yeah. Look how brave I am.
In my small town where the biggest threat to me is maybe getting a speeding ticket from the sheriff who's got nothing better to do.
Well, as always, the biggest threat is an influx of any people that are non-white, non-particular Christian denomination, non-married,
Yeah, I forgot it was a wasp's nest, by which I mean white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Well, that's exactly right. Like, it's not just that you have to be Christian. You have to be a specific kind of Christian. You have to have this kind of idea about women. Not even like the trans thing. Like, you have to specifically think this way about women around here, or you have to bite your tongue a lot, or get in lots of fights. Like, you know, you're just driving around and people will have stickers that just like, I publicly legally disclose I beat my wife or something, you know. And you're like,
But it's a funny joke because it's on a bumper sticker.
I have a problem with some of the things people put on their cars, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, you just can't take a joke. No flake.
I mean, I'm definitely an extremely sensitive person. But I've gotten so much shit all the time for my ability to take a joke. Because, you know,
You're too good at it?
No, yeah, there can be a really hateful joke that I'm like, they did a good job, I'm sorry. Like, the punchline is well delivered, and like, I'm not saying it's a joke he should tell, I'm saying that I'm not going to pretend that he did a bad joke. And that will upset people. I don't know, it's got to be holistic all the time on the internet, you know what I mean?
Right. There's no nuance.
Because I understand how it's a little bit, you know, of an eyebrow raise. Because you're like, well, Hitler was a strategic mastermind. But, you know, we have gotten to the point where like, it was
bad
like,
guy can't.
Germany was winning the war in 1940, whatever, and they'll be like, hold on now.
Bad guy can't do thing
Are you
good.
saying you think he was doing a good job?
Because it's good or bad.
And like I said, holistically, they have he had all of the bad opinions. You know, Hitler would have loved AI art because I don't like it. and the inverse, where it's like, you know, well, I just have to assume that Ryan Reynolds is pro-choice because look at his sweet, sweet face.
Right. I like the movie he was in, so he supports my values.
I don't know. Things are so much more clannish now, though, certainly, because there was a lot more like, oh, they can be pretty annoying about politics from conservatives. Like, they would say that about somebody they disliked but thought was talented or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's where you get these people who are like, why is Rage Against the Machine mad at me? Like, they have money. They're going to be okay. Like, I don't they get it? I thought they were selling albums, but they were saying things. And that, you know, that is, I think, the disconnect there.
It was a farce. The rage was... It was ironic.
Well, I think genuinely, very likely, the people who enjoy music that like is genuinely like ranting about how they're ruining everything or whatever, is that they just disagree. You know,
Well, they agreed with it when they were a powerless team, and then they became the machine, and then they're like, hey, wait a second.
Well, I mean, it's easy to say that, but like, you know, the polarization's worse for sure, and that has a lot to do with it, because it's like, you know, I'd ask my mom to buckle her seatbelt, she'd be like, sounds kind of transgender to me. You know, it's...
Well, to be fair, very transgender move.
Yeah, that was my fault.
But I buckle my seatbelt every time.
Mm-hmm. You just get asked enough times. No, you know, my fiance doesn't want me to die in a car accident, and I can do extra steps to prevent that whether I want to.
Yeah, but what about your freedom?
Which ones?
Freedom to not have a buckled seatbelt? You believe they took away the freedom to text and drive?
I can. I do it all the time, and it's so dangerous.
Yeah, I had to stop, and I've just seen too much inane bullshit going on.
Yeah.
And I thought I was so good at it, but nobody's good at texting and driving.
No, it's the same thing as, you know, sort of anything else that that is excused because it's easy. It's just, you know, you do it because it's done.
So I've put my foolishness behind me.
That's good. Ladies' foolishness moves to rest.
That's right. So I saw, entirely unrelated from what we've been talking about, but
Good.
fair, yeah. I went and saw Otoboke Beaver and Drinking Boys and Girls Choir the other night.
Oh, I don't. I know Otoboke Beaver. I don't know Drinking Boys and Girls Choir.
Drinking Boys and Girls Choir is from South Korea, and I was really excited to see them because I've been listening to them on Spotify for a good while now. And you could have told me it was a 6-person band, and that's kind of what I was expecting from like their sound. No, it's just
The name?
3 girls. And so bassist, drummer, and guitarist. Guitarist is the lead singer, or no, bassist is the lead singer, but they're all harmonizing like flawlessly in all of their songs. So it was really an amazing spectacle to see.
I've got a
And
tangent on this.
what's up?
Oh, you can finish your story. I'll
Oh,
remember this.
and I wanted to shout out the local opening act, Bruiser Queen, because on that same note, I don't know if they're married. I think they're a couple. It's just man and lady, drummer, guitarist,
Like,
and singer, and they get guitarist slash singer, and they get out just such like a powerful sound. Like you can look them
kind
up.
of like Days and Days in terms of like there's that duo of instrument and vocal that highlights. That's sort of the highlight of the band. I guess you're saying.
Yeah, it's so incredible, just the power of the sound they're able to get out. Like you can listen to them on Spotify or whatever, and they sound exactly like that live. It like they, as far as I know, don't do a lot of like, you know, post-production and stuff on how they, you know, on how their albums sound, other than, you know, just cleaning it up. But they're not like layering and everything in ways that, you know, they can't
You thought they were.
reproduce.
So I've got a
So
tangent on this.
yeah.
I've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm a lot lately. It's they're on the last season now, you know, and
Yeah.
there's this part you made me think of because you were talking about how you thought it would be a lot of people and that the people were playing multiple instruments and stuff. There's this part where there's a guy they want for the show, and so the main character Larry has to go see their band, you know, to make it nice and all that stuff. And they're you know, the show's pretty ad-libbed. So during the scene they're talking about, they're like he sings and he plays guitar and drums, and like that's funny, and you laugh, and you get to the next scene, and he's singing "Going to the Country, Gonna Eat a Lot of Peaches," and he's not particularly talented, you know, at the act or whatever. He's doing it, it's just not like good, and he's playing the guitar, and then he does get behind an empty drum set and just start playing drums whilst continuing to sing. And it's just such a good payoff because it's not exactly a plant and a payoff. It's an aside, and then the aside becoming real as a punchline. It's very good writing, comedy writing.
Yeah, I hear that David Fellow's good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Going places.
I think he could not have screwed Jerry Seinfeld more than having a public life presence and better television show.
Well,
Like, I think a lot of people respect Jerry Seinfeld a lot less after having seen Larry David write similar jokes and deliver the lines the way he does, which is similar to the way Seinfeld did in the show. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, because I mean, it was always Larry David's voice.
Mm-hmm. Very much so, like strongly, and that makes sense.
And back in the
He's got
90s,
a
you
strong
couldn't have Larry David as your lead.
No, you definitely could. You definitely could. And it's only that he's extremely rich and knows celebrities that makes it work now, or even back then in 2007. It's been running forever. With just frequent breaks. I think there were multi-year breaks between 2 of the last 3 seasons.
That makes sense. The new age, the digital age of putting out content.
They did get picked up by Netflix and then go to Netflix to pitch their show, and it was covered in Netflix stuff. And in all fairness, when they lost...
Oh, in the show, right?
In the show. Well, yes, they were at Netflix, though, really, in real life as well.
Oh, okay.
But not like they shot on location, but like that's also Netflix was producing them at that time, I think. And then they did the same thing for Hulu, where they ended up, because that's the cycle of the show, is he chases off job opportunity most often.
I mean, hasn't it always been an HBO show, though?
Yeah, you might be right.
But I mean, I guess prior to HBO, you know, getting on the streaming wagon, it was kind of a free-for-all.
They may have been jumping around or something. Yeah, HBO's been weird because Max, HBO Max, Warner Brothers Discovery, Warner Brothers, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just conglomeration, which is an appropriately arcane, Lovecraftian word for the beast that is devouring our world.
Conglomeration, but they still split it off into enough tendrils to really milk you out of every nickel and dime.
No, exactly. Yeah, we didn't make that zombie virus. It was a relic.
You're a aerosol conglomerate.
Exactly. Well, I mean, no, not even that. It's like Good Stuff Limited. That is yum, you know. It's yum exclamation point limited, I believe. But it's like Coca-Cola, Nestle, all that stuff.
Yeah, I thought
Pepsi and Nestle.
Yeah,
not Coca-Cola. I can't keep a drink. I don't like cola much.
Same.
You work to talk about.
It's a weird acidic taste, and especially when they try to flavor it, I don't think it works well with other flavors, except for maybe like ice cream if you're doing a float.
I don't know why you'd have a cola when you can have a root beer. I like root beer. It's just better cola.
I do like Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper's fine. I like root beer more. The more the Dr. Pepper tastes like root beer, the more I like it.
I like ginger beer. It's spicy.
That's disgusting.
Makes me feel alive.
You. All right, I have to go now.
Well, goodbye.
I am actually gonna go, but fuck you. But just kidding.
Fair enough. Well, thanks anyway for coming out.
I'm gonna hit some stuff.
I'm gonna sit here in my good taste. Thanks for being on.
Yeah,
It was a delight talking with you. Happy Pi Day.
Happy Pi Day. You can explain this one to me later.
Will do. So in case anyone's not hip to the jive right now, we're making a Pi Day champion. Look at that. Burnished golden crust armor. And you know it's got to have a cherry filling. I think cherry is the only one that's going to be up to the task. How's everyone out there? Did you celebrate Pi Day? You really get into the spirit? You kind of get into the spirit? Get yourself a pizza pie? Did you have fun with your Texas Instruments 89 calculator? You get maybe a traditional berry or maybe a blueberry pie. For those in St. Louis, you get toasted ravs or Robel cheese. Oh, clown, you're too sweet. You're a gem. Hardware here. 1415926535897932384626433832795. Sound says green. I don't know what. Oh, show me your colors. That's supposed to be. We haven't had a redeemed so long. Green, I can do that. Alright, fine, clown. Let's get green with it. Add some green augments here. There once was steel, now is adamantine. Circling back to Otoeke Beaver, they were an absolute delight. They're rowdy and experimental. I don't know what they were expecting out of the crowd. I mean, we had an especially rowdy, yelling shit out kind of crowd. And obviously this could all have been part of the bit. But the lead singer told us to shut up multiple times. And it went over really well every time. So, you know, we knew we were kind of the assholes, but if it was a bit, it was a fun bit. They were genuinely annoyed. It was still a fun bit. Gave me that yearning to mosh though. Because there was certainly a pit going, people were surfing that crowd, and ooh, I got that Jones in being on the outside of it. Didn't want to risk any internal bleeding, but ooh, the temptation was there. And if you can check out Drinking Boys and Girls Choir, that was the highlight of the show for me, because I didn't know they were playing till I bought my tickets, and I was just beyond stoked that they were on this tour, and just absolute sweethearts. So it sounds like y'all got some homework to do. This is this can be green too. Very filling down here. In a nice deep red. I guess it's all the high things are in green. try and have this show a little better than average. Well, not really shaded, but I think we have ourselves a little Pi Day mascot, somebody to really keep the faith for us. So I present to you all the Cherry Clobberer. So, you know who to look out for. Next 314. Better get your slices ready and make sure you're keeping in the spirit. Plus the Cherry Clobberer. Come and enforce it. Thanks for joining me out here. I'm Travis. This is 10 Paces. It's Thursday. Happy trails.